You've only gone and downloaded a multiplesources.net podcast. For more episodes of this show and a bunch of other content covering everything from NBA teams to professional wrestling, visit multiplesources.net. Multiplesources.net. But wait! Act now and you too could join multiplesources.net. Yeah, we're looking for people to do their own podcasts about different NBA teams. We're looking for blog authors, video highlight creators, basically anything you can think of to write about sports. You can kind of write or create to your heart's content. So if you want to help us and join this up-and-coming independent blog and podcast network monster, go to multiplesources.net. I'll stick something in the sidebar that says join us or something equally unfunny. So go and click on that. Join us.
Hello, and welcome to It's Always Sunny in Phoenix. This is a weekly podcast where three Suns fans discuss the team as well as general NBA and sports thoughts. I'm Mitch, your host. Joining me as always are Charlie and David. How's it going, guys?
Hey, pretty good.
How's it going?
It's good for me. It's Sunday. We're switching our recording day to Sunday, releasing on Monday, and we are also on iTunes, if you don't remember from last time. So find us. It's Always Sunny in Phoenix. Just search that. Nothing else has the same name. So subscribe to us there on the podcast app and then leave us a review if you like it. So let's jump right into it. We just finished watching the Dallas game, and we'll be talking about that. And then our last episode, we did a different recap format and different preview format. So we're going to be messing with that a little bit, and we're going to stick with our one-sentence recaps for those who didn't cover the game, and then whoever did cover the game will go a little more in detail. So we'll start with the Knicks game. That was on Friday the 29th. I covered that, so I'll go into detail a little bit. It was a 102-84 loss. Pretty tough one. There were some bright spots, though. Jordan McRae, it was his NBA debut, and recently he scored 61 points in a D-League game, which is a D-League record. So the Suns brought him up right after that, and he didn't look too bad. So it was pretty inspiring, I thought. 12 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal. His assists were really nice. He was making pretty good decisions, especially early on in the game. He looked a little frazzled at times, and that's completely expected. But overall, I was pretty impressed. Then John Lure and Mirza Teletovic returned. Lure was pretty limited, and he was actually out for the Dallas game, so I think he was just kind of testing if he could play or not. Didn't seem like he was back to full health. And then one thing we talked about a lot was Kristaps Porzingis and his matchup with Alex Len. We pretty much held Porzingis in check. He had an okay game. 7 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. But nothing super extraordinary. He had 1 putback dunk, which is kind of his thing, and it was nice, but I was really impressed with how we kept him in check. And then Carmelo had a really good game, 19 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 4 steals. And Aaron Aflalo also, 17 points, a rebound, 3 assists, a steal. So he burned us a little bit, and that was really tough. And then Devin Booker looked really good. 21 points, 3 assists. He was the only thing that really kept us in the game. And then quietly, TJ Warren, 12 points, 2 rebounds and assists, only played 19 minutes, and he was having some ankle issues. So he was held out most of the time, and then he was also out in the Dallas game. So it all kind of makes sense with that injury. But he didn't look too bad when he came in. So that's about all I have. Let's move on to the one-sentence recaps. Let's start with David on that.
McRae's passing ability a little bit better than Philadelphia fans had us believe in.
Okay, nice. And then Charlie, you said you've got a pretty good one for the Knicks, so I'm excited for this one.
Okay, so it's not as much as a game recap as recapping the highlight of the game. So a little play on words here. Archtops Porzingis with the monster slam in Madison Square Garden. Archtops,
nice.
Kristaps, you guys got that?
Got it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. that was awesome. That was, even though we lost, I was just like, I don't really care, because Archie dunked so hard on Porzingis. Oh, so great. I can't believe I forgot to mention that.
It was nice to be on the positive side of a highlight, especially one of those highlights. So,
yeah, for once.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was totally great. I loved that. So how about the game we just finished watching against Dallas? Charlie, you covered that. So what do you think?
Okay, so tonight was Star Wars night in Dallas, but if you watched the game, there was actually quite the noticeable absence of stars. Dirk was out for the Mavs. He was just getting a rest. And then we were obviously without Bledsoe and Knight, our two stars. So, and we were also without Lure and Warren. Warren tweaked his ankle in the Knicks game, I believe, so he was held out. And without Dirk, the Mavs went small ball, and they started Wes Matthews and Chandler Parsons at their forward spots. And we countered that by starting Mirza in place of Len. Our two center lineup wouldn't have worked too well against this tonight. So the first half, a bunch of back and forth basketball. Looked like it'd be a tightly contested game. And once we hit the third quarter, we outscored them by 7, and we took a 1-point lead into the fourth. And then once we hit the fourth, we were having some success pounding the ball down into the paint, down into the post, trying to take advantage of our size. But once we got into the fourth, they really started to lock down on that, and that caused a bunch of turnovers for us, trying to enter the ball into the post, or once we were in the post, it got poked away a couple times. And then again in the fourth, we ran our matchup zone, which is pretty interesting just to see out of an NBA team. And they started burning us on that. There were a lot of holes out on the perimeter, and they finally hit some outside shots, and that sealed up the game for them.
Yeah, that zone was pretty interesting, I thought. Let's do the one-sentence recaps. Do you want to start again, David?
I guess. So, my one-sentence recap for Dallas. Even with Dirk out, it still hurts on the inside.
Yep. Okay, so mine is going to be, after 3 quarters of strong basketball, the Suns sputtered in the fourth, getting outscored 23-9. So it was about it for that one. We were talking a little bit before, just saying it was really fun to watch at first, but that fourth quarter was tough.
Went downhill fast.
It sure did.
Oh, and a few stats from the game I didn't mention. Darren.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Darren Williams led the way for the Nets. He had 27. Looked like Utah Jazz Darren Williams again. And then Parsons had 15. Then Barea had 10. And then for us, Booker led the way with 19, 7 rebounds and 4 assists. That's a pretty nice game from a rookie. Teletovic had 14. Chandler had 12 and 13 rebounds. And then Keefe played pretty well off the bench, going for 13 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists.
The one thing I said while we were watching the game was, why couldn't we get Brooklyn Darren Williams instead of Utah Darren Williams? But yeah, he looked good. So we only had 2 games to recap since we recorded earlier. So we'll move on to previews. And I'm just going to outline a little bit of what we're going to do with these previews really quick. Last time, whoever was covering that game would go a little in depth, and then one person would pick a key to the game, and one person would pick a player to watch. now we're going to do something new along with that. I was inspired by the Colorado Avalanche subreddit. They do a thing every game where it's a contest and everyone has to pick who will score the game-winning goal. And then there's 3 bonus questions that are all different. So I want to try to do something like that here. So the first question that we'll have, that we will always have, is which Sun will score the most points. That will be worth 2 points. And then there'll be 3 random bonus questions, and they'll each be worth 1 point. So we will all make predictions for those questions and then tally the points at the end and see who wins each week. So I think that could be kind of fun. So we will start with the Toronto game on Tuesday, February 2nd. And David, you're covering that, so you want to go in depth?
Why, yes, of course. So our last game against Toronto was pretty good. We still had Bledsoe in, and he had that big clutch block on Luis Scola's 3-point attempt as time expired. So that was the really big play of the last one. The 2 leading scorers for the Suns the last game, of course, Bledsoe and Mirza. We're not going to be able to have Bledsoe this game, of course, as the rest of the season, of course. So instead, we will need to lean on in this game a little bit more. Who we've been leaning on, we've had Len, we've had Booker, Warren if he plays, Archie, all those guys, and we'll really need to step up if we can get close to the production that we had against the Raptors our last game. If not, the Raptors have been playing very well. They are one of the top 5 teams in the league. It's going to be tough for this young Suns team right now to be able to take those guys on and play up to that. Suns have in the past and continue to play up to their competition and then play down to their competition as well. The young guys will need to be a little bit more consistent, and this will be one of those things. Can they hang with a top team in the league?
Those are all good things. Yeah, those are all good to watch for. So we'll have Charlie pick a key to this game, and then I'll pick a player. So what's your key, Charlie?
All right, my key is actually a player. I think we need to contain DeMar DeRozan. He's definitely the Raptors' go-to guy when it comes to scoring the basketball, and he's doing a heck of a job this season. He's scoring 23 a game, and over the last 10, he's been putting up 25, along with 5 boards and 4 assists. So I think that's a big matchup for our wings. He has good size at 6'7", so that might be a PJ Tucker duty for the night.
Okay, yeah, DeRozan is great. And my player to watch goes right along with him, and I actually almost picked DeRozan. But I decided to go with Kyle Lowry as my player to watch because he has been great in the past 10 games and overall this season. He's averaging 21 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds overall this season, but in the last 10, he's averaging 22.4 points, and then a little over 5 rebounds, a little under 6 assists. But he has been great, and him and DeRozan have just been great for the backcourt in Toronto. And he's only 6 foot, but I think we still might have a hard time containing him. I'm excited to see what we'll do with him on defense and who will have guard him, whether it'll be McRae for a little bit, Booker, Sonny Weems, and Archie on him. So that'll be interesting. An interesting matchup for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Lowry is an all-star starter this year. He was an all-star last year. I mean, dude's just been playing really well. And he just continues to. He broke down a little bit last year, but he looks like he has that ability this year to just keep on going. And as you said, DeRozan, he is definitely an X factor. He isn't a prototypical 2 guard in the league this year. He definitely is going to the line. He is a mid-range shooter. He doesn't really have a 3-point shot, but he is still so effective for that team. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they're both in their prime right now, I would say. So we'll see what we can do against them.
Yeah, agreed.
let's do our little challenge here. So for 2 points, each one of us will pick which Sun will have the most points. And we might all pick the same thing, and that's okay. So I'm going to say Devin Booker. What about you guys?
I'm going to go with Archie. I think he's due for a big game after he had that big stretch of those 3 games setting a new career high each week or season high each week. I think he wants some more of that, so I'm expecting big things from him.
Okay. David, what do you think?
I want to go with Armani or Arch. I want to go with both those guys. Unfortunately, DeRozan and Lowry both can play some pretty good defense. Both those guys can. I'm going to go with Mirza. He tied for leading scorer last game against them, and I think he has a really good matchup off the bench. So I feel very comfortable going with Mirza especially if he gets hot.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Wow, I thought we would all pick the same thing, but we were all different.
I specifically did not pick the same thing, so.
Okay. So the first bonus question I thought of was, who will have the most rebounds? I'm starting us off kind of easy, hopefully. I'm going to say Tyson Chandler, because he's been a rebounding machine lately.
Same here. Hungry for those boards.
Okay. Okay, and David?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Tyson. I just think that he's been grabbing a lot of those boards, just like you guys said. So I think that's just the easy answer to go to.
Okay, so there we go. Now we have the one that we all picked the same thing.
Here we go.
Didn't take long.
No. So the second bonus question I thought of is, who will have the most fouls? And that can be on either team. I'm going to say Devin Booker for this one too, because he fouled out tonight in the game against Dallas, and he's been playing a lot more aggressively as of late. So I'm going to pick Devin Booker.
I went with Booker too for the same reasons.
Yeah, as much as I don't want to go with Booker, DeRozan's been able to draw a lot of fouls, and maybe even if you end up switching Tucker over, they could easily go to, I think Terrence Ross has been in the lineup, and could start having him start abusing Booker a little bit. So I'm unfortunately having to go with Booker.
Okay. That's okay. And then bonus 3. Which Sun will have the most minutes? This is a tougher one, I think, of the set. I'm going to go with Archie, because he's been playing a lot lately, and I don't really see that changing. Until Brandon Knight comes back, at least.
Yeah. I went with PJ. He's just kind of our workhorse, and I think he logged a 40-plus minute game within a couple weeks here, so he's capable of doing that, and he'll have his hands full, so I'm going with PJ.
Yeah, I'm going with PJ as well. I mean, he logged 42 tonight. I think he averages the most minutes out of any of our guys. That's the easy one, too. He's going to go out there and play defense for as long as possible. So I think that's just the easy one.
Okay, there we go. So that's it. I've got it all written down, and then we'll tally that up after the game and see where we land. So let's move on to the Houston game. That is on Thursday, February 4th. And Charlie, you've got that one, so what do you think about it?
Okay, so I think this will be the most entertaining game of the week for us to watch as Suns fans. For what that's even worth, I guess. I love watching the PJ on Harden matchup. Man, I'm talking a lot about PJ tonight, and that just kind of fits in, huh? But anyways, last year, I remember this video clip. It was PJ playing defense on James Harden, and PJ had his feet chopping, he had his hands up, and you could tell Harden had enough of him. He was starting to get frustrated, and that's just the kind of guy PJ is. So that matchup I'm looking forward to. And then the last game the Rockets played, they went small ball, and they started Ariza at the 4 and Brewer at the 3, I think. So that's kind of like what we saw tonight against the Mavericks. Who knows who's going to be starting at the 4 for us by then. It could be Lure, it could be Teletovic, could be Len going back to the Twin Towers, but we'll have to see about that. That's all I got for the Rockets game.
Okay. So I've got the key to the game tonight. Or not tonight, for that game. And you pretty much already said it, Charlie, but I'm just going to say stop James Harden. He is everything to that team. This season he's averaging just about 28 points, 27.9 per game. And then he's also averaging 7 assists and a little over 6 rebounds per game. And in the last 10, he's been just about on all of those numbers. So that's always the key for any team playing the Rockets, really. It is kind of a cop-out answer, but that's what's important for the Rockets. And David, do you want to do the player you'll be watching?
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit off the beaten path for a player with a recently acquired Rocket that was an old Rocket and a new Rocket in Josh Smith. You know, Jay Smoove, as his nickname is. I can be hip. He was playing with the Clippers earlier this season. He was misused. He was not really used at all, period. So I guess that's the reason why he was misused. There's no idea why that was, but, you know, whatever. He already started playing so well with those guys. He already has a ton of chemistry, and it's really easy to just say, oh, the player to watch is James Harden or Dwight or whatever. I'm going to be more interested in seeing Josh Smith play with his team and just see how he's doing with all of that.
So with the return of Josh Smith to the Rockets, do you think they're still in the market for a guy like Markieff Morris, or do you think that takes that trade off the table now?
You know, I think they could still definitely be interested in Markieff. I'm not entirely sure. Both those guys can play different roles. Both those guys do play different roles in general, or the same role, and I think both those guys can be played at the same way. I know they're definitely going to be looking to offload one of Demo or Terrence Jones.
One
of the yeah. They're going to be definitely looking to offload one of those guys a little bit more. I would think they'd be wanting to look towards someone a little younger to bring in for a guard. I would think they would want to bring in a little bit more, but I still do think that they could be looking into Markieff. He's just one of those guys that Morey would aim towards. A young guy who, you know, has a lot to prove.
Huh. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I'm still so interested in what's going to happen there. The trade deadline is getting pretty close, actually. We're going to be able to talk about this a lot more pretty soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And the question that's almost starting to bring up: do the Suns actually move Markieff?
Yeah. I thought about that tonight during the Dallas game. He was playing. This was the first time he had played in crunch time in quite a while, and he didn't look bad. So, I don't know.
You know, no.
It's.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, numbers-wise, last season, I mean, he was the clutch guy for the Suns. I mean, he made a high percentage on a lot of shots within the last 2 minutes of the fourth, and all of that. And he was even though the Suns didn't win a lot of close games last year, he was a big reason why there were so many close games and why they didn't just get blown out in the last few minutes of the games last season.
Yeah, that it all makes sense. And the other thing I was thinking was, are we playing him during crunch time and giving him extended minutes lately to try to raise his trade value, or are we trying to get him used to playing with this team again and integrate him back into our system a little more? That's the question I've been struggling with.
I'd say both.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Definitely. And McDee's not going to make a trade that he doesn't like. If people are asking way too much for Markieff, he's going to say, I'll just wait until either the offseason or next year or whatever, where the contract's still even better and Markieff can bring up his value a little bit more.
Right. We just have to be patient. We can't be like those millennials.
Don't remind
Thanks,
me.
Sarver.
It's not fair. Why is it that both teams that I follow in two major sports have terrible owners? It's not fair, man.
Me too, buddy.
High five.
Nailed it.
David just pulled. Was it Omri Caspi who did that for the Kings?
I think so.
The
When
high
DeMarcus
five.
Cousins
Yeah.
didn't high five him. David just high fived himself. For anyone who didn't see that, that was great.
Someone's
Oh my
got
gosh.
to.
I'm gonna get a screen cap of that. I'm gonna make that happen.
One thing really quick, speaking of other teams we follow, the Broncos are in the Super Bowl. I'm really pumped about that, but that's all I'm going to say about it.
That's all we need to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about the Broncos anymore. Thank you.
I'm avoiding all of it too. So I'm just ready for the game. That's it. Let's move on to our little challenge here. The question for the Rockets game, the main one, the 2-pointer, which Sun will have the most points? I think I'm going to say Mirza, actually. I really liked David's reasoning for the last game, so I'm going to go with Mirza.
Stealing all my thunder.
Sorry.
I'm gonna go with Booker for this one, and I'm placing this bet on the fact that Harden will be guarding him for the majority of the game.
That is a very safe bet. Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Booker as well. Booker's going to be starting. I see him being able to do a decent job scoring against Harden's lack of defense, not Harden's defense. So,
Yeah, his defense has been bad. I wanted to switch it up for once.
There you go.
that's fair.
Let's see. Okay, bonus 1. How much will the winning team win by? And we'll go Price is Right rules on this. So if you go over, then you're out. And then whoever's closest at that point will win. So I'm going to say the winning team will win by 10.
I'm going to go with 7. I think it should be a tightly contested game.
I'll go 11. Just that way I'm one ahead of Mitch, just in case the Rockets decide to play better basketball.
Okay, there we go. And then bonus 2, who will have the most assists on either team? I'm going to go Harden on that.
Same here. Is he getting
Yep.
seven a game this season?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
I mean, he's the primary ball handler for the Rockets. He better be getting at least a decent amount of assists.
Yep. So that was the easy one. And now for one that I was hoping to make a little harder. How many threes will Sonny Weems make? And I hate to be pessimistic, but I'm going to say 0.
Well, then I think the smart choice for me would be 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I hope 0, but I think I'm going to... I mean... I'll stick with 0. Hopefully, he doesn't actually even attempt a 3. In my mind, so that's what I'm gonna hope.
Hey.
So
Sonny's been all right lately, man. You can't be that hard
he
on
has
him.
been.
I have no faith at all.
I don't really trust him either.
Prove me wrong, Sonny. Prove me wrong.
Exactly. That's the way to look at it. So then we have the game versus the Jazz. Oh, one thing really quick to note. The month of February, we have one away game, and it's at the Clippers, so we hardly have to travel. Thought that was pretty interesting. And then we have the All-Star break. But anyway, versus the Jazz, Saturday, February 6th. David, you're covering that, so what do you think?
So our last matchup against the Jazz was where we did the short experiment of Brandon Knight off the bench. He had a great game. He was the highest scorer for that game, 26 points. No starter scored in double figures that game. It was a rough matchup. Gordon Hayward scored the most for the Jazz with 24, and the Suns looked like they were going to be able to at least fight with them a couple of times. There were oh my goodness, I almost just blanked on what I was going to say. They had to play catch up the entire game, and that's how I see this game going. The Jazz are getting healthier. They've been unfortunately, fortunately, however you want to look at it, the Jazz have been plagued by injuries. Derek Favors was having back spasms. Everyone basically was hurt except for Gordon Hayward. So as those guys get better and heal and all that kind of stuff, the Jazz are going to be a much better team. And that does not bode well for us, because we aren't going to have Bledsoe walk through the door on Saturday. We aren't going to have a whole lot. So the big thing is going to be, again, kind of seeing how we can go toe-to-toe with a team that's hopeful to be in the playoffs, and the Jazz, and still has a good shot at being in the playoffs. Another good thing to note is the Jazz and the Suns are on a similar path. The Jazz are about a year ahead, really, when they kind of started their rebuild. They did the big thing of letting Paul Millsap and Al Jefferson just walk in free agency, whatever year that was. I don't remember exactly, but you know, they were able to get that guy in Gordon Hayward. They were able to turn Darren Williams into Derek Favors when they traded him. The Jazz are where we hope to be probably in about a year, where we're hoping to be fighting for a playoff position, Devin Booker to jump ahead and continue to develop, Eric Bledsoe to be healthy, Alex Len to continue to develop, all those guys. So the hope is that the Jazz are only about a year ahead of us in those regards.
I definitely agree with that, and it leads right into my key to the game, actually, about the similarities. It was tough for me to pick a key, because on paper, these teams look very similar. The two things that are different are we have way more assists per game and way more turnovers. They have less assists but less turnovers, but our assist to turnover ratio is both 1.3. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And so my key to the game is going to be to dig deep and have someone step up and have a huge night. I think that's what it's going to take, especially since the Jazz are getting healthy again. And then, who's your player to watch, Charlie?
Well, I think Gordon Hayward would be the easy way out. He's kind of an all-around guy for them. He can do it all. But I'm going to go with Rodney Hood. He's a nice, big shooting guard. Might give us some matchup problems. And he's scoring 19 points per game in the last 10 games for them. And he's just a solid shooter. He's almost a little bit like Hayward, but a little different too. So I think he'll be a tough matchup for us.
I know it's not my part to pick a player because I just did that whole thing, But just to piggyback real quick, I'd look at Trey Lyles.
Yeah, go ahead.
Backup power forward. He was drafted this year. He's part of that stretch of like that 10 to 15 draft pick wise, where all 4 or 5 of those guys are playing extremely well. And Devin Booker, Cam Payne, Trey Lyles, Justice Winslow, of course, and who's the other one? I don't remember, but all those guys are playing extremely well. And Trey Lyles is no exception to that. He can shoot the 3 ball. He can play defense. And I think him as their backup 4 is going to give the Jazz a little bit more pressure against our other 4s in Mirza and or depending on who he's matched up against. So I just wanted to throw that out real quick that the people should be watching that.
Yeah,
like
definitely. Yeah, I like that a lot. So let's do our challenge here. Our 2-pointer, which Sun will have the most points? And let's switch it up. Let's have someone else start. How about Charlie? Who do you think?
All right, so we've been pretty much just switching amongst these 3 guys, but I'm going to go with Teletovic for the high man this game.
See, I'm going Archie,
Okay.
so
I also was going to go Archie.
how dare you? You broke the... Devin Booker's not in this one. You know, this is just a travesty. You're out, Mitch.
I guess we'll have to quit doing
You're
this.
out. You're
We
you're
need
fired.
to rethink our principles if we're leaving Booker off that list.
Exactly.
Well, I guess we better get rethinking then, because he's not on there. Okay, first bonus question. How many offensive rebounds will the Suns have? Let's start in the same order.
I think we'll go a little less than average. I'm going to go with 8.
Yeah, I was looking at it. We're getting about... we got their last one. The last game against them, we got 9. I'm going to say about 9. I think that's about right with all of our guys in there. So we'll go with that.
Okay. I'm going to be hopeful that we're going to really fight and really grind in this one. I'm going to say 11.
Way to be optimistic.
Someone has to.
I was so pessimistic in the last one. So, okay, and then bonus 2, who will have the most turnovers on either team?
Is Knight playing?
Yeah, that's the easy one.
I don't know. That's why it's so hard to choose.
I'm just going to go with Knight.
He's going to turn it over on the bench even if he's not playing, so... Man, that made me feel bad.
Oh, that's good.
I'm going to go with... Oh my goodness, this is really hard. I think I'm going to go with... I'll go with Alex. If they try and generate a little bit of offense, the Suns, through the post game, I don't think that's the right way to go, but... You know, Alex has a really... He juggles the ball a little bit, so... I'm gonna roll with that.
I'm actually gonna say Len too, because the Jazz post players I think could give him some trouble.
Yeah, I was trying to flip the coin between Len and Chandler, and unfortunately, I think I'm gonna have to say Len. So
I thought about Chandler too, but I think Len puts the ball on the floor a little bit
agreed.
more. And then speaking of Alex Len, bonus 3, how many blocks will he have?
I'm going to go with 2 because Len has been playing pretty solid against guys his size or even bigger lately. So I think he's feeling like a big man down in the paint. I think he had 2 blocks tonight against the Mavericks, maybe 3. But yeah, so I'll go with 2.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that number. I like 2. I mean, if they're going to ask him to do a little bit more, I think that's just the easy one to go to. I was going to look at what he's averaging, but I think about 1 to 2 is probably the way to go. So I will say 2 as well.
Okay, he's averaging 0.9 for the
That's
season.
way less than I thought.
So basically,
I guess that's actually accurate. Never mind. I said it was 1, so whatever.
Yeah. I really like 2. I'm trying to think if I'm going to switch it up, but I don't think I will. I like 2. I think he'll get 2 blocks. And that's it for our previews then. And we get to move on to Player of the Week, PJ Tucker. We talked about him a little bit already. He went to school at Texas, played with Kevin Durant, and he's played overseas and kind of bounced around, but he's landed with the Suns and he's made a fairly nice home here. He may be in some trade talks, but for now he's fitting in pretty well. He's really a glue guy, plays really hard. His contribution doesn't always show up on the stat sheet. What do you guys think about him?
When I think about PJ, I kind of compare him to a European player's career, how he was over there for a while. And then he seems like he's been in the NBA for much longer than he actually has, just but with his playing style and his basketball knowledge. So, and I think PJ, and on top of that, he has the absolute opposite style of a European player. So I think that's pretty funny. But about PJ, I think every team needs a PJ Tucker. Someone to just lay it all out on the court, hustle, give it his all. Big fan of PJ.
Yeah, he's gonna have that defensive pressure every single game that he plays. That almost grit and grind, similar to the Grizzlies. He always is going to go out there and play his heart out on defense. He might not always score all the time. He might not always hit that corner 3. But you're going to take it because he will always go up against the other team's best player and try and play even better every single time he goes up against one of those superstars because he wants to show the rest of the league why he deserves to be playing and the reason why the Suns love him so much. I know that he is in a lot of trade talks, but I don't think the Suns are really that focused on moving him right away because he's the perfect veteran guy, I think. So
Definitely. We touched a little bit on this already, but what's he good at? I just want to say defense right away. He's always on the other team's best player. But what else? Or if you want to touch on defense too, what else do you guys think that he's good at?
I guess going back to defense, he can guard the point guard, he can guard the shooting guard, and even he matches up against Boogie Cousins when we play the Kings sometimes. So he guards every position, and you just got to love that out of a guy. And that has to do with his hustle and his strength. He is a very strong guy for being listed at 6'6". He's kind of like a Charles Barkley almost. Seems like he should be taller, but he's not quite the tallest guy out there. And yeah, that's what I like.
yeah, he definitely plays bigger than he actually is. And you see that there's about 2 or 3 times a game where he's in the paint boxing some guy out and getting the rebound and getting the layup back in and getting that score. At least once a game, every once in a while there's 2 or 3. So you can see that he really just plays bigger than he actually is. It's really easy to just say defense. It's just everything. I mean, I think he realistically he can guard 1 through 4. He matches up against Blake Griffin. He matches up against Kevin Durant. He matches up against James Harden. All those guys, and he's willing to. And that's his best part of his game. That's why people want him. He shoots, because not only does he play defense, but I think he shoots about league average from 3. So it's that corner 3, but he's perfect in that regards. He does what he needs to when it comes to that. And it's the reason why so many teams want to look into him and want to try and see if they can get him. that exact reason.
Right. What does he need to work on? For that, I'm actually going to say that 3-point shot just this season. Even if he's at league average, it would be really nice if he could get that corner 3 up a little bit. But I'm really not complaining because he's doing exactly what he needs to pretty much every game. But that's all I can really think of. What about you guys?
There's only one thing that I don't like about PJ Tucker. I do not want to see him bringing the ball up on a fast break. That just seems like recipe for disaster a lot of the time.
Yeah, agreed. If there's one thing he can work on, he's an older player. He's not really going to get better at many things. Work on just getting that ball to someone else when there's a fast break opportunity.
Yeah. And one other thing I thought of is this can be good or bad, but he's a very emotional player. And in general, I really like that. But it can get him into trouble sometimes. So good and bad there. That's how a lot of guys are. But I generally really like PJ's fire and passion and emotion.
Agreed.
And then the question that we've been asking is how high is his ceiling? But I think PJ's probably found his ceiling already as the hustle guy, the glue guy, that kind of persona. Is there anything else? Do you think he's hit his ceiling? Do you think there's any further he can go, or do you think he's there already?
I think he's hit his peak as a player, skill-wise, but maybe not the peak. How do I want to say this? The pinnacle of his career as a role player, maybe is the way I want to put that. Even as a starter here with the Suns, that's a pretty great role for him. But if he were to get traded to a playoff team, he could have a big role for one of those, and maybe that's what he could improve on in his career right now, I guess.
Okay,
yeah, I mean, he's an older player. He's hit his ceiling as where he's going to go. I mean, he's the second oldest player on the Suns, even though he's only played really for 5 seasons for the NBA. He's in his 5th season of playing in the Pro American League, at least. The best he can do is maybe that 3-point percentage goes up a little bit as he ages. You know, that's about it. I think he's hit the best he's going to be. I think if he was on a championship team, he is the kind of guy that the Clippers need right now. The Clippers, I don't like them at all, but if they had someone like PJ Tucker, they would be way better off. If the Thunder had a guy like PJ Tucker you can put him at the 2 even though he's a little shaky from there, he could easily play the 2 position for the Thunder or 3 off the bench in a small ball lineup. Any of those. You just look at so many of them, and because of his defense, and he can hit that corner 3 every once in a while, and he'll box out. He could be a great glue guy on one of those championship teams.
Definitely. Yeah, I like that for sure. So I decided to add a new section to this too. Are there any fun facts that you guys know about PJ?
I know he's a sneakerhead. He'll wear out some cool old school kicks, or he even tries the designer kicks, which he will blow through by halftime normally and then have to go put on a normal pair. But that's what I see from PJ on social media, at least.
I was going to say the same thing. I watched a video with the Suns equipment manager, and he talked a lot about PJ blowing through the soles of his shoes and how he always has to have extra pairs of whatever shoes PJ is wearing because he blows through them all the time. I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, the list of all the different shoes he's worn in a game is really long. It's pretty funny to look at and then compare it to someone who wears the same pair of shoes for their whole career.
I don't really have a fun fact because I just noticed that segment at all to begin with. So,
Yeah, sorry, I surprised you.
Surprise! But Charlie, you probably remember the one accessory that he dropped since coming over to the Suns. He was wearing goggles his first year when he came over, and I don't really remember why, but he definitely, at least for the handful of first games that he was coming in, he was rocking goggles, and that was the year where we brought back over Goran. We tried to sign Eric Gordon in the summer. We signed him to that max contract that got matched. Beasley and Wes Johnson and all those guys. And in that same year, we brought over PJ. And the one thing I remember from that season is him randomly wearing goggles, and then all of a sudden they were gone.
Yeah, that memory actually, well, it escaped my memory. I really don't remember that. But now I want to see PJ Tucker versus Horace Grant death match.
Can they be like a tag team wrestling duo instead?
That'd be better.
Oh my
That'd be
gosh.
better.
So let's move on to my favorite section, the possible nicknames. And I want to save Charlie for last because he's built up a lot of hype with his ideas. Do you have any nicknames for him, David?
I think this is just the perennial one that I just skip until I randomly come up with another Almighty Armani, which isn't going to happen. So I'm just going to let myself get skipped.
Okay, that's fine. I didn't think of anything great. I had a hard time. But the one I did think of, I don't know if he's Irish at all, but I liked Tuck of the Irish. So let's just hope he's a little bit Irish.
Everyone's Irish at least one day a year.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, let's not prolong this anymore. Let's hear the big idea, Charlie.
Okay. So, after all this hype, I'm a little nervous now. But
You better be.
when I think when I think of PJ Tucker, when I look at PJ Tucker, I try to envision him as something. And, like animals are a normal comparison for when you do this, I guess. So, there's two animals I think that PJ Tucker looks like, and then from that we can derive the nickname. And I need your help. So,
Okay.
I believe PJ looks a bit like a pit bull and then a bit like a shark. I don't know why. I wish I knew why, but I think he looks like a shark. So from that, I have two nicknames, and I'd like your guys' help. First is the pit shark, pit bull shark, or then just reverse it, the shark pit.
I like Shark Pit.
PJ Shark Pit Tucker.
There's
good.
that, or you
like
take
Shark
the
Pit a
pit
lot.
out of it entirely and just call him the bull shark.
I like that too.
Ooh. Or the Shark Bull.
No, not that one. No,
That's not as
not
much
that
like
one.
a pit bull. I still like Pit Shark. It sounds like a giant pool full of sharks, maybe, but like without water. But they're still like thriving somehow.
Yeah, like
That's what Pit Shark sounds like to me.
yeah, and like when PJ is playing defense on you, you might as well just throw your body into a pit of sharks.
See, that's why I think shark pit rolls along the tongue a little bit better. You're throwing him into the shark pit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shark pit.
Shark pit.
Boom.
It's like a new show. Like, speaking of playing the Mavs,
Yeah.
Shark Tank, Mark Cuban, the Shark Pit.
Except this one's a literal
But the
shark
shark
pit.
pit
You
is
just throw them
definitely
into
cooler.
a pit of sharks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Shark Pit, I like it.
One more chance, David. You got anything?
Can you top Shark Pit?
I got nothing.
Okay.
I'll come up with something next time. And it'll be really lame and bad, so...
Well, that's what makes it the best.
Yeah, but mine's not even a good lame. It's just like you just need to stop making up nicknames, so... I'll
probably hit that by next week.
I don't know. You've been on fire lately. We'll be expecting one from you next week.
I'll come up with one. Maybe.
And maybe we'll pick a really tough player. Like Ronnie Price. No.
Price is right.
But
Bam.
Anyway. Yeah. There you go. You already did.
There. I don't have to come up with a name next week. I'm good.
Oh my gosh, I'm crying. Well, let's wrap this up here and talk about which previewed game we're each looking forward to the most. I think I'm looking forward to the Jazz game the most, actually. I think it'll be a great challenge. I'm really excited to see how we match up with them healthy. And I like the Jazz because John Stockton played for them. Gonzaga great, John Stockton. So I kind of like to follow him every once in a while. What about you guys?
I'm going with the Raptors, just to watch Lowry and DeRozan. I think they're going to be a lot to handle for our backcourt, and I just want to watch the fire burn, I guess.
Yeah, I've got to say the Raptors, too. I'm looking forward to that. I don't really get to watch them play that much. They're not necessarily on those primetime games, and when they are, it seems like I'm always in the middle of doing something else. So being able to watch them a little bit more. But for that same reason, I'm also really interested in watching the Jazz game. So both those teams I don't really get to watch a whole lot of, and they're both intriguing. That being said, the Raptors are a bit better, and they are a top team in the league, so I'm going to have to go with them.
Yeah, it'll be a good one, too. Let's do our usual thing at the end, where we plug something non-sports related. I know it might be a little tough, because we already plugged something non-sports related earlier, but we can still think of something. Is there anyone who wants to start?
So I actually have something, so...
Oh, okay.
How about that? So there was a game that came out, I don't think it was this week, but it was about a week or two ago on Xbox One and PC. It is called Oxenfree. It is kind of like if you took Freaks and Geeks and combined it with Lost. And it's like a storytelling 2.5D side scroller kind of thing. It's not really it's not a side scroller. It's 2.5D. It's kind of the setting, and you kind of walk around and you're checking things out and going through it. I haven't played that much of it, but it's a lot of fun, and since you can't get it on PC or any of that, I'd recommend playing it if you're into games. So
we're cool. Pitching indie games now?
I think that's the only thing that I actually play, so
all right.
So I'm going to roll with it, whatever.
Okay, well, that sounds pretty cool. I kind of like those. I know you said it wasn't a side-scroller, but I kind of like those side-scroller games. I don't play a lot of them, but they're kind of fun.
They're way too hard, in my opinion.
Okay, anyway, enough of this video game talk. Charlie, what's your non-sports plug?
Okay, so being originally from South Dakota, I've lived down here in Arizona for a few years, and I just want to say how great the weather is. It's going to freeze here in Arizona over the next 3 days overnight, I believe, and I just find it humorous how insane the weather people go, and all the urgent alerts we get for temperatures under 32 degrees. So if that's as bad as it's going to get here during the winter, I love it. So that's all I got.
That's a good one. And I'm jealous because it just snowed here in Spokane last night. It all pretty much melted during the day, but I'm ready for spring.
I'm not ready for spring. So
No.
on Arizona, no thanks. I'll stick with the winter as long as I can.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah. Spokane has nice springs, though. So I'm excited to have it for one last time. But speaking of weather, my plug is for my space heater. It is a Lasco space heater. I was looking for like a model number or something on the box, but I couldn't find one. It's the one at Bed Bath & Beyond. So if you're needing to warm up your room, I highly recommend it. It rotates. There's a little remote control. Can control it from bed. That's kind of nice. But I live in the basement of my house. It gets really cold, and it's just a bunch of college students, and we're trying to save money so we don't turn our heat very high. And this space heater has saved me during the winters. So thank you, Lasco space heater.
Hey, everyone, give it up for Lasco.
Potential sponsorship, maybe?
You know, I thought you were joking about that.
Lasco, if you're listening to this, we love your products.
I definitely thought you were joking when you said that you were going to plug your space heater. Apparently you weren't, so, whatever.
Nope, I was not joking. I'm actually going to plug my space heater,
Oh, my
and
goodness.
I just did. I love it.
On that note...
Well, yeah, on that note, we're on social media. Find us on Facebook, Phoenix Suns Multiple Sources. Follow us on Twitter, at SunnyInPHXPod. Email with questions, thoughts, or suggestions, sunnyinphxpod@gmail.com. And then, of course, our website, multiplesources.net/Phoenix Suns, and the entire Multiple Sources blog and podcast network. Thank you for listening, and we're looking forward to watching the games before we record again. Feel free to talk with us, email, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. And we will be back next Monday. Go Suns!